The story begins on Silas Prime, a planet that was on the edge of the Imperium, which didn't get much notice before the Great Rift. When the Citrix Maledictum ripped the galaxy in half, Silas Prime became more of an important planet due to its proximity to the Rift. It was after this that many factions started to arrive at this planet to stake their claim. It had been reported by the Astra Militarum 609th Division stationed there that there had been many uprisings and numerous spores of orcs have hatched. The new Void Mining Guild, which some see as a gene-stealer cult, has arrived to start to dig in the old ruins, and even whispers of chaos can be heard. There were small skirmishes at first, which led to larger encounters, and eventually it spread to the Hive cities. In the Hive City of the Spire of New Babel, there was a takeover of gangs that had controlled the lower Hab levels. The chaos cult known as the Flayed Skull had positioned itself to take control and even backed the recent election of the new overlord. It was after this event that a sickness started to spread in the lower Habs, and there was even eyewitnesses saying that the dead had walked again. This had alerted the planetary governor to call for any Adeptus Astartes help that was close to Silas Prime. Then Iron Hands answered the call first, and their strike cruiser arrived into orbit over Silas Prime and immediately started to scan the planet. It was on the war-torn, toxic continent of Spadonius, in which they noticed something on the scan. There was movement in an area that no normal human could survive in. They were sure this is where they would find their enemy. They sent a small patrol to investigate. The Plague of Shadows had been scouring this continent for lost relics and portals in order to gain reinforcements. The plague zombies, in which they call refugees of New Babel, make their way to this continent to beckon the call of Nurgle. The mission was going to be a simple sweep and clear. The agenda for the Iron Hands was a priority target, and the agenda for the Death Guard was to deploy Vox relays. The battle would happen in a small ruined town where the Death Guard showed up on one side and the Iron Hands showed up on the other. It was the Death Guard who were the first to act. The Plague Marines get out of the Rhino to claim the mausoleum. They then deploy a Vox relay. The Rhino moves to screen the Plague Marines and to gain advantage of dense cover from the burnt forest, shoots its Havoc launcher into the intercessors with no success. The Plague zombies shuffle up the edge of the ruins. The Blight Hauler moves to position itself out of line of sight from the Contemptor Dreadnought and fires at the intercessors with no success. The Contemptor moves up through the ruins to gain a sight on the Rhino and Plague Marines. He targets the Plague Marines with his Combi Bolter, and the Plague Marines make their saves. With his Multi-Melta, he targets the Rhino and scores a massive amount of damage, and the Rhino shrugs off half of the damage due to its disgustingly resilience. The aggressors move up the battlefield. The captain, Josus Duscus, moves up ahead of the aggressors. The intercessors claim the mausoleum and then proceed to move up through the burnt forest. The set aim of their stalker bolt rifles to the Blight Hauler use mercy as weakness, and in the end reduces it to half its wounds. The plague zombies run up to claim the blazing portal in front of them. Naxxus Squirmlung disembarks out of the Rhino into the burnt forest, casting a smite into the Contemptor, which causes 1 damage. He then tries to cast Miasma of Pestilence onto the plague zombies, but is denied by the Iron Hand stratagem. The Plague Marines embark into the Rhino. The Rhino moves up to claim the other blazing portal and pop smoke. The Blight Hauler moves back and over to the other side of the battlefield to get shots at the Contemptor. It fires everything in the Contemptor, and after it is left with 3 wounds. The Death Guard now hold 3 of the 4 battlefield objectives. The aggressors stay still and double shoot into the plague zombies while in tactical doctrine, wiping them out completely. The intercessors move up slowly through the burnt forest and shoot into the Rhino, but due to smoke and disgusting resilience, it takes no damage from them. The captain flies towards the other side of the battlefield, looking to get closer to the remaining Death Guard forces. The Contemptor moves up closer to the Rhino, puts all of its shooting into it, and the Rhino makes all of its saves. It then charges into the Rhino, and Naxxus Squirmlung, the Plaguecaster, heroically intervenes. The Contemptor attacks the Rhino in melee and wrecks it completely, completing one of the Iron Hand's agendas as a priority target. The Rhino then performs a putrid detonation, and the exploding damage does a mortal wound to the Contemptor and 2 mortals to the Plaguecaster. No Plague Marines are slain as they escape the wreckage. Naxxus Squirmlung then swings his corrupted staff and kills the Contemptor. The Blighthauler moves up to provide cover for the Plague Marines and shoots its bile spurt at the Captain and the multi-melton missile launcher at the Intercessors. The Captain shrugged off the bile spurt, and the Intercessors were only able to live thanks to the cover from the blazing portal. Naxxus Squirmlung moves behind the Plague Marines and casts Smite at the Captain, which was denied again by the Iron Hand stratagem. The Plague Marines were unsure of what action to take as they didn't move away from the blazing portal objective, as they were planning on deploying another Vox relay. The temptations of killing the Iron Hand's captain was too much, and they decided to throw all their grenades at him thanks to blight bombardment and overwhelming generosity, which left him with 2 wounds left after he rejected the flesh and embraced the machine. With only 2 wounds left, the Plague Marines then charged into Discus and claimed the life of this great Iron Hands hero. They then consolidated closer to the rest of the Iron Hands with murder on their mind. Even though one aggressor could not see the Plague Marines, the unit decided to stay still in order to shoot twice while in tactical doctrine at the Plague Marines. Even with only 2 out of the 3 aggressors putting all their guns into the unit, the Plague Marines stood no chance. The Intercessors moved up closer to the blazing portal and then set their aim at the Blighthauler. They used methodical firepower and mercy as weakness, but the Blighthauler still came out unscathed. Thanks to securing 3 out of the 4 objectives earlier in the battle, the Death Guard still held them thanks to the sweep and clear mission rule. The Blighthauler moved back to stay out of range from the aggressors and fired on the aggressors, killing 1. Naxxus Squirmling moved back to make sure to secure the mausoleum and to have the Blighthauler provide protection from Lookout Sir. The aggressors advanced up to try and get in range of the retreating Death Guard. The Intercessors moved up to claim the blazing portal to even the amount of objectives held by each army. They then used methodical firepower and targeted the Blighthauler, which came out unscathed. With the battle won, the Blighthauler moved behind the protruding rock to block line of sight from the Intercessors. Naxxus Squirmlung continued to hold the mausoleum in order to secure a Crusade relic. In a last attempt, the Iron Hand's remaining units moved up to try and take down the elusive Blighthauler, which received the name the Undying from this battle. The Plague Marines were marked for greatness due to them killing the captain. They also got 2 XP for deploying the 1 Vox relay, which raised their rank to Bloodied. They now are grizzled veterans and earned the name the Blightbringers. The Malefic Blighthauler, now known as the Undying, received the other mark for greatness as it was able to survive longer than anyone thought possible and deny a priority target to the Iron Hands. Due to the special objective option we added for the mission, Naxxus Squirmlung uncovered an artificer weapon in the mausoleum. Tempter was marked for greatness as it was the only unit to kill a priority target. This allowed it to gain the rank of Bloodied. It then used a requisition point to rearm and supply to allow it to swap its multi-melta for an autocannon. It then used its battle honor to gain the masterwork weapon enhancement for the new weapon.